I was training a couple of my clients earlier today, and one of them had a little bit of a scare where she was experiencing something that she had never felt before, and yet it was a really good thing. And that's crossing into our anaerobic threshold. So I thought everybody could benefit from understanding this a little bit more. So what am I talking about? Well, our body, when performing exercise, gets energy from essentially three sources. It's either aerobic exercise, which a lot of us are familiar with, or it's anaerobic exercise, which is very popular these days with high-intensity exercise, but a lot of people may not understand what the difference is. And it has to do with where we're getting our energy from, how quickly it's used up, and what kind of power output we can get during that process. Whew. All right, let's simplify it a little bit. And this may be a little bit tough to see, but essentially here we have a graph with three different colored lines. We have this red line up here, which comes all the way up to about 100% maximal power, and it drops off really quickly. This is for exercises that are performed very fast, such as a barbell clean and jerk, or a snatch, or a quick sprint. It's something that we do all-out effort over a very short duration, getting maximal power. Now, the reason that this drops off so quickly is because of its energy source. It's from something called ATP, and it's energy stored inside our cells. And once it's used up, we have to wait for it to replenish, which takes about 4 minutes. So we can get our maximal output, but then we need to recover before we can do that again. If we try to keep going, our maximal power is going to decrease. We're still going to be in that anaerobic threshold, but we use a different energy source. So we're not going to get maximal power. It's not sustainable. But the next energy source, glycolytic, or using sugar stores, carbohydrates, is something that we see a lot in, say, boot camp, CrossFit, high-intensity circuit training. It's where the duration of the exercise is typically 15 minutes or less. Really 10, 12, 8 minutes or less is even more ideal. And we're going to an all-out effort. And again, that all-out effort isn't 100%. We're just doing everything we can. So we maximize the rest of our anaerobic capacity. And then as this drops off, we break over into another source of energy. Oxidative, we're breathing, we're getting energy through our respiratory system, such as long-distance running. So anything that takes typically more than 12-15 minutes and is done for a long period of time, such as marathon running or biking or swimming, this is our aerobic exercise. We're not putting out a lot of power, but we're doing it over a long period of time. And there's certain benefits to being in this oxidative state and going through aerobic exercise. But if you think about it, almost everything we do in life is already aerobic. If we're working at a desk, if we're walking the golf course, if we're walking our dog, that's all aerobic exercise. And the only way to get better at aerobic exercise is to raise the level of intensity or increase the duration, but we're still talking about a lot of volume. And sometimes we don't get the benefits we want unless we invest such a large amount of time, which is why anaerobic exercise, higher bursts of energy for shorter amounts of time, are really more preferred because we get almost every benefit from aerobics plus stuff that we don't get otherwise. So this is where we're doing let's say 5 to 12 minute circuit training exercises and so forth. And what's so great about it is, again, because we're using glycogen, because we're using sugar and carbohydrates as our energy source, we're going to burn those up. And after we burn those up, our body's going to be like, okay, well, now where do I get energy? I've used up all my sugar stores. We burn reserve fat. Really important. The thing with anaerobic exercise is when we're done doing it, our metabolism gets boosted, and it's going to continue firing and burning calories and fat when we're done. Whereas aerobic exercise, such as marathon running, when we're done, the burning stops. So we have to constantly be moving. So what if, instead of let's use the example of instead of running for an hour, what if we could get all of those benefits in 8 to 12 minutes, and when we're done, we continue burning calories and fat? Well, that's the benefit of our anaerobic exercise. Now, to come full circle back to the beginning of this story, is in order to cross into the anaerobic threshold, we're going to experience some new sensations, and it can be a little bit uncomfortable or scary if you don't know what to expect. It's often accompanied with nausea, lightheadedness and dizziness, fatigue, a little tingling sensation. You might feel a little delirious. That's all totally normal. What we see when we look at, say, CrossFit Games athletes, some of the best in the world at crossing into the anaerobic threshold, we find that they've conditioned their bodies enough that they get into this very uncomfortable state, and they allow themselves or force themselves, depending on the person, to stay there and continue working. And it's very difficult. Everything in our body is like, what are you doing? We need to stop. This is crazy. And when we're done, we're going to feel it. It's like, whoa, what just happened? But that's exactly where we want to get to. So what happened was today I was working with one of my clients who's a little bit older in age, and we're just kind of getting into fitness. And so we did a couple of exercises that really pushed her and her nervous system, and because of it, she got this little bit of a shock of like, what's going on? She got a little bit nauseous. We had to stop for a minute, but I was really excited because we broke through into something new, and she was able to push herself beyond somewhere that she's been before, which is so awesome, and I'm really proud of her for doing that. The thing that I'm working with her on now is not to shy away from that, but instead to expect it and to embrace it. So if we want to have all these benefits from exercise in a shorter amount of time, the key is we need to raise that level of intensity. Now here's the kicker, and this is where my world really comes into play. If we want to raise intensity, which we now know that we do, we have to make sure that our body is able to move efficiently and safely. Otherwise, we're just going to get hurt quicker. So we need to still have a foundation of mobility and proper range of motion and body control. Then, once we have that foundation, let's ramp it up. Let's go for our intensity. But let's lay that foundation first. So in the example of the client I've been working with, we've been laying that framework. We've gotten her body to the point where she's able to do a couple key moves, and now we're just adding intensity through resistance and speed and endurance, and all of a sudden her body's like, whoa, what is this? And we love that. It's a really great thing. So when you're doing any of your exercises, I want you to ask yourself, is this an all-out burst of energy? Does it take less than a minute? Is this a moderate burst of energy? Does it take about 1 to 12 minutes, 1 to 15 minutes? Or is this a prolonged period of exercise? And then based on that, you can understand what kind of benefit you're going to be getting. But again, if we can, we want to try to stay in this glycolytic or using up our ATP stores. And I have one final little kicker for you, and this might blow some people's minds. Golf. Almost everybody I talk to thinks golf is an endurance sport. It's in this oxidative or aerobic capacity. And at first you might be like, okay, that makes total sense. It's played over the span of 5 hours. And while, yes, there are some aerobic components that go into golf, the act of swinging a golf club lies over here. It only takes a second and a half, really quick, very fast burst of energy. So we want to train this aerobic capacity so that after we've hit that shot and we've depleted our ATP stores, we allow them to recover before our next shot. And the better we get at that recovery process, the more energy we can use from shot to shot. This is also why if we spend hours on the range and you hit 2, 3, 4 buckets, you get fatigued and the shots start decreasing. Because we've used up our ATP, we're now in this glycolytic state, we've used up all of our sugar stores, and now our body is gassed and we have nothing left. So we have to recover. We have to have our body come back and feel good again. And the benefit of this game of golf is you hit a shot and then it's going to be another minute or two until you hit another one. It's a blessing in disguise. So don't confuse your training. Don't train just aerobic exercises just because golf is a 4 to 5 hour long sport. We want to train anaerobic, high-intensity exercises with good form because that will better translate to our golf swing. So because we're trying to hit a ball, trying to swing a club, let's have that be the focus of our training. Short bursts of high intensity with proper form. Let's cross into that anaerobic threshold. Let's move better. Let's feel better. Let's play better. Thanks for hanging in there. I hope you got a lot out of this. I'll see you guys next time.